Alright, today we're going to factor trinomials with a values greater than 1. Okay, so if you're not a good guesser, it can be hard sometimes to use the guess and check method. That's why we use the X method, which if you're not sure of the X method and how to use it, refer to the 7.8 lesson where we introduce that method. Today we're just going to talk through this problem and move on to the next problem that we have, right, in the next sample. So we're factoring here 15x squared plus 13x plus 2. Think back to your steps from the last lesson, right? First thing you look for is a GCF. Do I have a GCF here? No, I don't have a GCF, right? So then we're going to make sure we're in standard form. This problem is already in standard form. So label your A, B, and C. A is 15, B is 13, and C is 2. If you follow the steps given here, it says multiply A times C. We use our X. We know A times C goes at the top, and then B goes on the bottom. Right? What are factors of A times C? Well, factors of 30 are 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6, right? A, C, and B are both positive, so we know every factor is positive. We need to find out which set of our factors will add together to give me 13. Well, that would be 3 and 10. So we put 10 and 3 on the sides of my X. Right? This is where it gets different. Yesterday, or the last lesson, we just went from the sides of our X to our binomials, and we had our answer. This time, we cannot do that because my A is not 1. This time, we have to go and do what's called splitting the middle term. Right? So, if you look over here, we'll bring the first term down, so 15x squared plus 10x from the side, 10x plus 3x from the other side, and then bring your C term down. Okay? Then now we have 4 terms. You know how to factor with 4 terms. We now factor by grouping. So group your first 2 terms together and the last 2 terms together. Think back to factoring by grouping. What do you do next? You pull out a GCF of each group. So the GCF of the first group is 5x, leaving me with 3x plus 2. The GCF of the first group, well, there's not really one, so we pull a 1 out, leaving me with 3x plus 2. Remember, the groups here must match. We pull down the GCF part, so 5x plus 1 and 3x plus 2. And then from here, we can go ahead and check. It checks out, so this would be our answer. Okay. This is a little bit confusing because it's already partially worked out for us. But if we go to our notes, it's not worked out there, so it'll make a little bit more sense. So stick with me. All right, so letter A. First thing you do, check for a GCF. Do I have a GCF? No, I don't have a GCF. Okay, so group. Or not group. So make sure it's in standard form. Is it standard form? Yes. Then label your A, B, and C. You have your A, your B, and your C. Okay? Then go to your X. Well, what goes on top of our X? We said A times C. So 6 times negative 10 is negative 60. On the bottom is your B, which is negative 11. Think back to yesterday's lesson. We were told we have to find factors of 60. Factors of 60, 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 12, 6 and 10, and I believe that's all of them. Think back to our chart from yesterday, or the last lesson. we were told if my C is negative and my B is negative, you're going to have one of each sign. And my bigger number matches the bottom, so my bigger number is going to be negative. So which set now adds together to give me negative 11? Well, positive 4 and negative 15. Okay? This is where we get a little different from the last lesson. Because my A value is not 1, it is 6, we have to rewrite it different. We cannot go to our binomials. So, write your A term, 6x squared, plus, split your middle, 4x minus 15x, and then bring your C term down, minus 10. Okay? I now have 4 terms. No, we're not going to combine like terms. That will put us back at the original problem. With 4 terms, remember, with your factoring, you're going to group the first 2, group the last 2. Now that they are grouped, look for the GCF of the first group, which we know and see here is 2x. When I factor out a 2x, I have 3x plus 2. The second group, my GCF here is negative 5. That leaves me with 3x plus 2. My parentheses sets match, so I'm on the right track. Bring your GCFs down, 2x minus 5, and then bring down the other binomial, 3x plus 2. We're almost done. One more step. This last step, now we need to check. I'm not going to check every problem, just it'll save us some time. Okay, so how do I check? Either FOIL or double distribute. Refer back to the prior lessons. 2x times 3x gives me 6x squared. 2x times 2 gives me plus 4x. Negative 5 times 3x, negative 15x. Negative 5 times 2, negative 10. Combine those like terms. 6x squared minus 11x minus 10. Does that match the original problem? Yes, it does. So this would be your final answer. Letter B. Okay? Look for GCF first. Do I have one? No. Okay? Label your A, B, and C. A, B, C. Go to your X. The top is A times C. So 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. Your bottom is 14. All right. Factors of 15, 1 and 15, 3 and 5. Now think about your signs. The top is negative, the bottom is positive, so that's sign one of each. We know that our smaller number needs to be negative, again, based on the chart from the last lesson. So, 15 minus 1, that gives me 14. That's what I need. So, negative 1, positive 15. A value is not 1, so we need to split our middle. So, 3x squared plus 15x minus 1x minus 5. Can I put the negative 1x first? Yes, it does not matter which order they go in there, just as long as you have them both. 4 terms, so group. The GCF of the first group is 3x. That would then leave me with x plus 5. The GCF of the second group is simply negative 1 because both terms are negative. That leaves me with x plus 5. My binomials are the same, so bring down the GCF term, so 3x minus 1, and then the other factor, x plus 5. One more step. The last step we need to do is check. And again, I said I'm not going to check each problem, but this problem does check. And our final answer, 3x minus 1, x plus 5. Okay, we're going to do one more like this, and then we're going to jump to one more type of problem. All right, so this problem, another number, letter A, we have no GCF. So if I don't have a GCF, I'm going to label my A, B, and C. A, B, C. Go to your X at the top. 3 times 4, A times C, that's 12. And your B on the bottom, which is 8. Factors of 12, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Everything here is positive, so that means both sides and both terms will be positive. Which set adds to give me 8? Well, 2 plus 6. So 6 and 2. Okay. Split my middle. 3x squared plus 6x plus, not 8x, plus 2x plus 4. 4 terms, so now I'm going to group. The GCF in the first group would be 3x, leaving me with x plus 2. The GCF of the second group is plus 2, leaving me with x plus 2. The parentheses sets of the binomials match, so I'm on the right track. So 3x plus 2, and then x plus 2 are your binomials. The final step that we will have is to check, and again, this checks, this is your answer. All right, one last problem. A little farther ahead here. All right, letter C. What do I look for first? Well, first thing I have to look for is a GCF. Do I have a GCF here? Yes, I have a GCF here. My GCF is 2. Right? So when I factor out a 2, I'm left with 2x squared plus 13x minus 7. Now, I'm not using my original trinomial. I'm using my new trinomial for my x. So, A, B, and C. 2 times negative 7, A times C is negative 14, and my B is 13. Factors of 14, 1 and 14, and 2 and 7. My signs, again, 1 of each. My smaller number is going to be negative. So negative 1 plus 14 gives me 13. So 14 and negative 1. Now I need to split my middle. Be careful splitting your middle. Again, you're using your new problem, not your original. So 2x squared plus 14x minus 1x minus 14. 4 terms means now I group. The GCF of the first group is going to be 2x, leaving me with x plus 7. The GCF of the second group, if I didn't have a typo, it should be a 7 right there. The GCF of the second group is simply negative 1, leaving me with x plus 7. Okay, my binomial sets do match, so I'm on the right track. 2x minus 1, x plus 7. Is this my final answer? No. Why is it not my final answer? Because remember, I had this GCF term up here. What do I do with that GCF term? I have to bring it down. So, 2. This could be my final answer. If we check, we will see that it does work out. So, in fact, that is my final answer. I hope this lesson has helped you. If you have other questions, please see your